And now, with that, without further ado, we will bring on Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. It is Charlie O'Connor. Charlie, I know they've lost a couple of rough ones. That first Ottawa game comes to mind. You know, giving San Jose their first win of the season. But the second and third period are amongst the worst I've seen the Flyers play this year. Yeah.
I feel like that might be a little bit of an overreaction just based on it. Look, this was one of the most frustrating games of the season. And I think that's probably coloring the immediate reaction to the game. I think they played substantially worse than this. I don't think they played well. Like, you know, and it was highlighted by how well they played the first period. Because you're like, if they can play that well, where the heck did that team go in the final 40? I know this is going to sound a little bit like excuse making, but this was a game where I really, really think they missed Travis Konecny, because this game desperately needed someone to do something to stop the momentum of the Capitals. Like, someone needed to have a shift where they took over. Someone needed to do something crazy. Like, Hathaway tried, to his credit. He tried to spark a fight. Like, I give him credit for giving it a go. And he ends up taking Tom Wilson, one of their better players, off the ice for 4 minutes. So good job, Garnet Hathaway. But to me, this was a game where, like, you just were waiting for someone to do that stop shift where it turned things back in the Flyers' side, and they just never got it. Like, no one delivered the shift. And look, there are guys on this team still that have that ability. Like, Owen Tippett has that ability. Sean Couturier, I know he's been struggling recently, but like, he has that ability. Joel Farabee, we've seen it. Travis Sanheim has that ability. They just haven't done it. They didn't do it in this game. But Travis Konecny is the guy who is most likely to be able to do it because he is the most naturally gifted, most consistent player on the team. And they just don't have him. He's not here. And because of that, 10 minutes of bad play snowballed into 40 minutes of bad play, and they get a loss.
This makes 6 straight games that they've lost to Metro Division opponents, 5 of them in regulation. And just over the last couple of weeks, you lose to Jersey in the Stadium Series. You lose a tough one to the Rangers. You lose to the Penguins. You lose to Washington. 3 of those 4 teams are the teams that are directly chasing you for a playoff spot. Is this just kind of what they are? Like, this is why they're rebuilding. They're not ready for prime time. Like, do you think the pressure's getting to them in these games? What is wrong against division opponents?
No, I don't think the pressure is getting to them per se. I do wonder if in some of these games, like, for example, like the Rangers game, could have went either way. They lose, yeah, but that game could have went either way. The Devils game was weird. It was an outdoor game, whatever. This game, they play great the first 20 minutes, then they fall apart. Like, I don't know. My thought process is just that this is a talent-limited team, and that talent limit is even more obvious when the team's most talented player isn't in the lineup. Jamie Drysdale is their most talented defenseman. He's out of the lineup. Like, this is a team that already didn't have a ton of high-end skill, and they're just slowly taking more and more of it away. I think that's what's going on here. Like, I don't think it's rocket science. Mm-hmm. I've talked about it all year. This team's playing over its head. Maybe they're coming back to earth a little bit. They might still make the playoffs because a lot of these teams chasing them ain't that great either. But I do think this is maybe them coming back to earth a little bit.
Hey, Charlie, JP over here. I want to talk about the story of the night and Bobby Brink's benching here. We were discussing here, obviously, like, we all understand torts and holding players accountable, but why not bench Bobby Brink for tomorrow's game, for example, instead of the third period?
I would rather him bench him in the third period than bench him tomorrow, to be honest. I guess, I mean, people were kind of going crazy about this on Twitter. I didn't see it as terribly controversial. I mean, yeah, he had a goal in the first period. He had a really bad play at the end of the second period. He got benched. Like, I said this in the beginning of the year, you can't only want accountability for the guys that you don't like. Like, I know people like Bobby Brink, and I like Bobby Brink as a player. I think he's got solid upside. He could potentially be a top 6 forward at the NHL level. That said, when he screws up and he's a rookie, this is John Tortorella coaching. This is just what he does. there's accountability. There's a reason why Sean Couturier started this game on the fourth line, because he ain't playing that well. There's a reason why Scott Lawton got dropped to the fourth line. Noah Case got dropped to the fourth line. Like, say what you will about Tortorella, and you can agree or disagree about the way he does things, but this is how he does things. If, like, he benched Joel Farabee 2 shifts into a game a couple months ago. Like, this shouldn't shock anyone. I guess that's kind of my thing. Like, I was gathering on Twitter that people seemed shocked. I don't know how you were shocked. This is just Torts. This is what he does. It seems like it's mostly working. If you disagree in principle with the way he does things, fair. But as soon as I saw him yelling at Brink on the bench, it's like, oh, he ain't going to play the rest of the game. Like, that's just the way it is. That's just playing under Torts. And probably everybody on that bench knew it. Probably Bobby Brink knew it the minute he came back to the bench and Torts was screaming his head off at him. Like, this is just what the Flyers are. This is what John Tortorella is.
No, I wouldn't say it was shocking to me. Like, it was honestly predictable. JP, as soon as it happened, said to me, yo, he's not playing the third period, right? And I was like, well, we'll see. I just think, like, when I see 4 dudes on one side of the ice all puck watching, and somehow it's the far winger's job to protect the net front, like, I don't know. The other 4 guys should probably be benched too. I just see this as one of those, Torts is going to watch the tape and go, oh, I could have held a lot of people accountable for this one. But it is how he coaches. He's a young guy. He's going to learn. They want more defensive effort out of him. I mentioned earlier, like, I think this was maybe more of a culmination. Bobby Brink scores that goal in the first. It's also immediately preceded by him turning the puck over and Ersson erasing that mistake. And then they go down and score, so it's all's forgiven. But this could have been the culmination of a few mistakes, not just that one specifically. But that one specifically, I'm like, I don't know. I think everyone on the ice is to blame here. But Charlie, off the ice, I heard on the radio broadcast at intermission, Danny Briere spoke to the media between the first and second. Was there anything interesting there?
He did. I thought, honestly, the most revealing things were just about the injuries. He finally gave some sort of details on the injuries. Seems like the hope is that Travis Konecny will be back sometime next week. Briere more or less said they're realistically shooting for Thursday, which would be against the Florida Panthers. It's right when the schedule starts getting really tough. I guess that's fair. Like, I know they've struggled against Ottawa, but Ottawa's not that great. St. Louis is a mediocre team. The schedule really starts to turn with that Thursday game against Florida going into the trade deadline. So it makes sense that that's where they're shooting for with TK. Drysdale and Risto, there's a reason, I guess, why they're not providing updates. And the reason is that they're waiting on how these guys are going to respond over the next couple weeks. And then they're going to make a final decision on whether either of them can play again this year. So it wasn't super revealing, but it was nice to have it right from the horse's mouth, right from Briere's mouth, telling us, at least what he's willing to tell us. I specifically asked Danny if the Drysdale injury was linked at all to his previous labrum injury, that shoulder. Danny said, like, out of respect to the player, I'm not going to go into the details of the injury, so he gave us nothing there. As for the deadline stuff, I have a piece coming out for tomorrow, specifically breaking down the Sean Walker situation, but I'm going to have a ton of quotes from Briere's availability on that. In the grand scheme of things, though, he mostly just dodged and evaded, which is exactly what you would expect a GM to do, 6 days before the trade deadline, 7 days before the trade deadline. Like, he would be foolish to show his hand to the media. I know fans want the honesty. Obviously, I would love for him to tell us everything he's going to do as a media person, but he has a GM. He would be a fucking idiot to tell us what he's going to do. Like, it would just be stupid. So, I mean, unsurprisingly, he didn't provide anything in terms of, hammering down exactly what he's going to do with Walker, with Sealer, with Lawton, with potentially buying, by not giving up, serious assets. Like, he basically just answered it in a way where he left the door open for him to do anything that he wants to do. So, yeah, he talked. I'll have the quotes in the piece. You could read into them the way you want, but there was no, smoking guns here. Let me put it that way.
I will say it's tremendous timing that they came out in the second and third period and looked the way they did immediately after he said something along the lines of, well, if we don't get the asking price we want, we'll keep these guys and go on a run ourselves. I don't think you will. The run part, at least. So it seemed like nobody tonight, Charlie, could send or receive a pass. They missed the net a ton. It was just not a clean game at all. What were the sentiments from Torts in the locker room? Was Torts post game like 13 seconds long?
Surprisingly, he wasn't as ticked off as I thought he was going to be, especially based on how ticked off he was on the bench the whole game. Like, I've seen him mad this year. He was real mad tonight. Like, not even just on the Brink play. There were multiple times where he was screaming his head off at the team. I had my binoculars out trying to see, like, all right, how mad is he? He's real mad. But he gave himself, I guess, a chance to calm down after the game. Maybe because the third period was pretty quickly out of reach. It gave him a chance to settle down a little bit. I feel like the games where he comes out the most angry when talking to the media are the close ones, the ones where they have a chance the whole way, and then he's just probably still so fired up he doesn't feel like talking to anybody. He actually gave some decently long answers. He basically said, look, like, he didn't think the team in the final 40 minutes played horrific. He just didn't think they created enough. And he said straight up, some of our offensive guys who we have, obviously they don't have Travis Konecny, but they still have some offensive guys out there. He said they need to play better. They need to pick up their game. And if they don't, this is going to become a thing. Like, I did an article today for Diehards on Sean Couturier, the fact that he was dropped to the fourth line for Tuesday's game, started out tonight's game on the fourth line. He finished in a top 9 role because they benched Brink, obviously. But the point I made in the piece is that, look, I understand that Sean Couturier isn't playing that well right now. I get it. It's fair. And it's a fair point for Tortorella to make that he doesn't deserve the minutes. However, with the schedule that's coming, like, they ain't going to win many games if Sean Couturier isn't close to what he is supposed to be. He doesn't have to be at his peak. He has to be a lot better than he's been. And it's the same thing with guys like Joel Farabee, guys like Owen Tippett, if they get Travis Konecny back. Like, they are going to need those guys to play really. They're going to have starting in the second week of March. I guess, like, it's great that the Ryan Poehling line is doing well, but, like, I'm sorry, if you're playing Florida twice and Toronto twice and Boston twice, like, that's not going to cut it. You're not going to win. Like, you're just going to lose a bunch of games, and maybe that is what's going to happen, especially if they go out and they trade Sean Walker, the anchor of what's been by far their best pairing this year. Maybe that is what's going to happen. They're just going to lose a ton of games and fall out of the playoff race. I guess it's possible, but they do have guys like Couturier, like Tippett, like Farabee, like Konecny if he comes back, like Sanheim, who have the ability to change games. They just need to do it more often.
Charlie, you read my mind on the Sean Couturier. It was going to be my question. So I'll steer a little bit a different direction. Something we did talk about tonight is Joel Farabee and his play as of late. What have you seen from Joel Farabee as of late yourself?
I mean, he's been meh. I don't think he's been terrible. He just hasn't been as good as he can be. Like, he led the team in ice time tonight with 33. I thought he made some plays. I think he originally got credited with an assist. I think they took it away from him on the power play goal. It was originally Farabee. They ended up giving it to Frost. That said, he can be better. Like, you're not gonna win against contending teams if your best line is Ryan Poehling, Garnet Hathaway, and Noah Cates. And, like, that's great. They're playing well. They've been an effective line. They're a fourth line on a really good team. If they are your best line, you're not going to win many games. They've been hanging in there, but at some point, either some of these big guns are going to have to get going, or they're just going to start piling up the losses. Like, it's just as simple as that.
All right, Charlie, without any further ado, good luck finding the 3 stars from this one, but let's get to Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. With star number 3.
I mean, I don't friggin' know, man. It's certainly no Flyers. I can tell you that. So I guess I'll go with John Carlson at number 3 because he was fine. Scored a goal, did some stuff, took advantage of the fact that Bobby Brink wasn't skating very hard to try to protect that far post. I guess I'll give number 2 to Tom Wilson because he fought Garnet Hathaway, got 2 assists, and did a ton of things. And I guess I'll give star number 1 to Alex Ovechkin because he's Alexander Ovechkin and he's 1 goal closer to Wayne Gretzky.
There you go, Chuck. For a game that saw 7 goals scored, it feels like nothing happened in this game. Like this game got
This is how the
simulated.
Capitals win. This is how they win. They're not like the Capitals are not that impressive of a team. But this is how they win. They win because they grind games out and they just find ways. Like, what's their goal differential, like -18 going into this game? Like, they're not that great of a team. It's just they find ways to win. And tonight they found a way to win because the Flyers had an underwhelming final 40 minutes.
All right, Charlie. With that, we will let you go. Enjoy whatever sort of party is happening around you. And I will talk to you tomorrow, my friend.
Yeah, Capitals have a -30 goal differential.
Negative
so even
30?
worse than -18. -30.
That's...
I mean, now it's different unless Yahoo is already updated by tonight's game. It might be down to -27. But yeah, not great. Not the best.
Negative. I mean, that's all right. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Charlie. We'll have more.
Thanks,
we'll have more
Charlie.
complaining to do about this team after a Senators game, because that hasn't been great for them yet this year.
We all silly like the mayor.